Hey guys, I'm Randy.
And I'm Daniel.
We're two lifelong friends and musicians, but when we're not playing gigs, we like to talk games.
And today on the Game and Gig podcast, we're talking about should Xbox release a handheld and how much does a game's length factor into whether or not we buy that game.
Well, guys, welcome to the Game and Gig podcast. We are a viewer-driven podcast. We read and react to your comments. Starting things off today with a conversation about Xbox and a handheld because Phil Spencer came out and he just straight up said it. It's no longer just like something that's rumored. It's just a fact. Xbox is developing a handheld. Now, will it come out to market? We don't know, but they are in the process of trying to make one.
Yeah, I mean, I think Phil Spencer had pretty heavily alluded to this quite a ways back. But, you know,
Definitely.
it's good to know that it's at least real on some level, right?
This picture is, by the way, not.
No, this is it, dude.
This is the fan.
Ain't this it?
No, this is like basically a fan mock-up of what one could look like. Obviously, very heavily inspired by the Nintendo Switch. I don't know that I love this because the same problem that you have with the Switch would be a problem with this particular handheld in that the buttons and the sticks are right on top of each other. They have no diagonal to them.
Yeah.
Which would be a little bit of a pain.
Well, I would just like to correct, this is 100% what the final design would be. And, my first impression was also that this looks horribly uncomfortable. And I hope everybody knows that I'm joking. The worst part to me is not the verticality of it, but the fact that there is absolutely nothing below the D-pad or the right joystick to hold on to. It's just like nothing but control. Like I can just feel my hands cramping up just looking at it. But we shouldn't dwell on that because this is not real.
No, this is not real. But they are in the, Phil called it the prototype stage of the development process. They are working on it. There's a lot of things that could happen here. I have a lot of thoughts about what this could be. But the first thought I have is like, should Xbox do this at all? Like, is this a good idea, period?
Well, do you want my opinion before we get the people's opinions?
Sure, I would love your opinion first.
Well, I think that it would be a huge success, and do I want them to make it are definitely two different things.
Yeah, fair.
Because,
fair.
Obviously, I want them to make it. I love handhelds, and the more we have, the better they all should get, right? That's economics. So
Yep.
I say go ahead and put this thing to market, give Steam Deck, give Asus, give Lenovo, all those guys some competition, and I would love to see it. But should they make it from a financial point of view? I'm not so sure, honestly. They're kind of not really in the console business these days, it seems like.
Yeah. I think it definitely comes down to the approach. And I think a lot of people have various different ideas on how they think Xbox should approach this. And we'll get into that. But yeah, we did put out a poll just asking, do you think Xbox should release a handheld gaming device?
We sure did. At 37%, people said yes, I think it would be successful. And at 63%, people said no, I think it would likely fail.
Yeah. And now what is successful to Xbox may be slightly different than what we think is successful. I don't really know. But I kind of look at this and think, obviously most people think it's probably wouldn't do well, but is that just biased towards Xbox?
Yeah, probably, but I wonder why people have gathered such a thing, Randy. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of earned bias, if you ask me.
Just the fact that their consoles in general haven't been doing super, super hot.
Yeah, and we've got some comments coming up that maybe touch on some of these things, but I think we've pretty much decided at this point the reason the consoles ain't doing so hot is because they don't sell any damn games. Okay, I am at this point a veteran of kicking Xbox on this podcast. I'm just leaning into it.
Yeah.
I'm just not so sure this would save them or anything. I just think it'd be cool.
Yeah. Well, Benjamin says here, while I think it's a really cool idea with Steam Deck and PlayStation, I don't see myself ever purchasing another piece of Xbox hardware unless they don't sell their games on other storefronts.
And I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, like, as long as they're offering them somewhere else, like, why buy dedicated hardware when they're, everywhere else?
You're right. I mean, I think I agree pretty heavily with that sentiment. And And I think we have a comment coming up that maybe highlights the one thing that you and I have talked about that maybe we think could be really sick about their handheld.
Yeah, I do have some ideas of ways that I think they could do it and be successful. Because like if I were to take this poll and you say, should they release a handheld? For me, it all comes down to how are they going to do it? Is this going to be like what kind of device is this actually going to be? And
Right.
that's what we need to get into.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you want to go into our first comment here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, first comment, and it's actually two for the price of one here, is from our good buddy Morris Dennison, who said, I'm afraid they would make it cloud streaming only like the PS Portal. If done right, yeah, but it will be probably not.
Yeah. I mean, like that is my definitely gut reaction to like news that Xbox is working on a handheld. It's like, what's the most disappointing way they could do it? A PlayStation Portal-like device would definitely be the most disappointing way to do it because it'd be a completely useless device because you can do it other ways.
Yes, and they've seen the backlash that, the gamers at large, kind of had for the Portal. And it would just be crazy for them to put out an Xbox version, And there is a response here to Morris Dennison, sorry, from Hari, who said,
Yeah, there you go.
it should be like Steam Deck or ROG Ally. And by the way, this has potential because Microsoft/Xbox can make very good Windows integration. So everything that had a problem on those handhelds can be easily solved with it. And that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. You've been talking about this for a while.
Yeah, this is like my one thing. I think that if Xbox is to do a handheld, I think that they should just fully embrace the handheld PC thing that's going on right now. I think that's what they should do. Just make a Windows-based handheld PC, and at what they're going to have is an Xbox operating system. I think that is their moneymaker. If they can come up with an Xbox operating system that just runs kind of like Steam OS does on a Steam Deck, it's an optional kind of like front end way to access this handheld PC. I think if they do that, I think it could be successful. But that's the only way I think it will be actually successful.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense because, the thing that keeps the Steam Deck, in my opinion, kind of ahead of some of the competition is the software. It's certainly not the hardware or the performance that you get.
True.
Everybody loves Steam OS because it makes it easy. It doesn't feel like you're playing on a PC. It feels like you're playing on a handheld, like a handheld console. It doesn't feel like a PC, and it's simple. Everybody always talks about how much better the performance is from the Windows handhelds, but then they always say, but the software freaking sucks. You got to have an external keyboard to do anything, and it's a horrible experience. So if they could fix that and do exactly what you said, make it an Xbox/Microsoft version of Steam OS, hell, I'd probably write a check if the hardware was good.
I think so. I think if they could crack the Windows-based PC problem that people seem to be running against. Really, that's one of my biggest problems with the Steam Deck is that it runs Linux. Not that I mind Linux, but I'm just so familiar with Windows that I would much rather have a Windows-based handheld PC. And if it ran some sort of Xbox front end that, like, say, all your digital purchases from Xbox were also there, it'd be fantastic.
It would.
But that's just like one of a couple different routes they could take. I think that would be the ideal route. Obviously, another thing, like we mentioned, it could be like a cloud device. But I guess the third option would be kind of the most traditional, like maybe what you'd expect if someone said, hey, Xbox is making a handheld, and it's just a handheld that plays Xbox games natively, and it's a closed ecosystem that is just like kind of like the Xbox Series S, but in handheld.
Right, it'd be like a Series SP. The Series S
portable.
Man,
that's what they call it too.
Man, if they put out an Xbox Series SP and it happened to be a clamshell, that would be the most punk rock thing that Tim and Tom could ever do.
Oh, I would love that. I don't think it's going to be a clamshell, but what if? I feel like they have to, right? They just have to make it a clamshell.
If they called it the Series SP, they do.
Yeah.
And that's also kind of a dig at PlayStation with the PSP. It'd be like,
yeah.
I don't know, man. Did we just name it? I mean, I don't know.
I think we just named it. No, but I mean, I would be very disappointed if they did that because I think they've already shown with the Xbox Series systems that consoles just aren't working out for them. The Xbox Series systems, which are really pretty good consoles, are selling worse than the Xbox Ones, which were already, considered to be pretty much a failure. Like, they don't need to go this route. That'd be like putting something out for a non-existent audience almost.
Yeah, they shouldn't do that. I agree.
Yeah.
You ready for another comment?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Randy, this one's yours.
Yeah, this one's from Gerald Poster, who this isn't a response to me putting a comment saying, hey, I think it should be a handheld Windows-based PC that runs like an Xbox operating system. So just for context. Okay. So Gerald says, I think that could work. It'd need to be cheaper than the Steam Deck, possibly taking the we take a loss on consoles so we can make a profit on games approach. Because there's got to be tons of people who would like a Switch-like console that can play PC games, but don't want to shell out the money for a Steam Deck. Make it a decently moddable in terms of what software you have installed, and it could be a winner. Though they'd have to fix a lot of DRM on games, there's very little point to playing an always online game on a handheld console. If I have access to the internet, I can probably just play the game on an actual console or PC. I give the Switch a pass on that since it can act like a home console when docked. So yeah, the DRM stuff is interesting here because the Steam Deck runs into this DRM problem a fair amount as well. It's kind of all handheld PCs.
Yeah, I mean, it's there. I'm sure it's worse, depending on what kind of games you gravitate to. The only one that it's ever frustrated me with was Control.
Yeah.
But I know there's a lot more out there.
Oh, yeah.
And, it would be something they'd have to look into. But a fair point here they're trying to make is that it needs to be cheaper than Steam Deck. And, they could do it. Microsoft's a big-ass company, so if they want to do that, they can make it happen. But the Steam Deck is already quite affordable, depending on which version you get. So that's not necessarily an easy task. Because
it's not an easy task at all.
It also should perform better than the Steam Deck because the Steam Deck's 2 years old. So they don't. This is in the early stages. This is in the early stages right now. It ain't like it's about to come out. Probably ain't looking at seeing this for another couple years at least. So it's got to perform better than the Steam Deck did 2 years ago, but then still be cheaper. I don't know. That's a big ask.
Yeah, it's a really big ask, but it's not one that I think would be impossible. I would say that cheaper than a Steam Deck only if it was the same performance as a Steam Deck. If it's a higher performing device, which I would assume it would be, I think it could be more expensive than a Steam Deck and still be ultra appealing. I think it would have to compete against the other handheld PCs. That's what it needs to compete against, not necessarily the Steam Deck.
Yeah, that may be. Yeah, you may be right. But I
guess other Windows-based handhelds.
Yeah, other Windows-based handheld. But I mean, those are kind of direct competition to the Steam Deck, so it's not like they can just ignore it.
True.
And I
guess what I'm saying is, like, if the performance is better, then it may justify a slightly higher price.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But we're also probably looking at a time when the Steam Deck 2 exists, so we don't even know how that's going to perform.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, true. But I do agree that no matter what, like Steam is going to, like when say Steam Deck 2 comes out, or, the upcoming Windows handhelds, which will continue to roll out, wherever those prices are, this has to be cheaper. Well, I don't think it necessarily has to be cheaper. It either has to be at the same price and be much better or be cheaper. It's got to be one of those two options, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Catherine brought me a water.
That's good. It's good to drink
Thank
water.
You, Catherine. I needed that. That was my water I got already.
I was going to drink it.
Oh, okay, you got it. There's my wife. She was just bringing. She thought I didn't have water, so she was making sure I was hydrated. How sweet of her.
Yeah, I haven't been drinking enough water here lately. I got to do better. Side note. That's just a side note. You ready for another comment here?
Yeah, I think this is exactly where I want to go with it. Hit us with this one from Mellow Baton.
Yeah, Mellow Baton said they should do what they did with the GameSir X2 Pro and just make a licensed version of the Retroid Pocket 5. So, you and me were talking about this before we were recorded today, just a little bit, because this made me this comment made me think, I don't really know much about the Retroid Pocket 5. And I also had to remind myself what the GameSir X2 Pro was, but it's one of those mobile controllers.
Yeah, it's kind of like the what's the one that everyone uses?
Backbone.
The Backbone. It's kind of like a Backbone.
Yeah, it's like a Backbone, but and there's an Xbox like licensed version of it.
Yes, it's like an official Xbox version of it. I think for playing Xbox cloud game stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, cloud game or remote play is all you can do with it.
Yeah.
But a Retroid Pocket 5 is an emulator. That's a handheld emulator. So, do I think a Retroid Pocket 5 would be powerful enough? No. But, like you were saying earlier, I think this probably leads to a larger discussion.
Yeah, I think that this kind of brings it that is okay, does Xbox even have to make this handheld? We've already seen them officially kind of partner with what was the cloud gaming little handheld that came out? It was the
Logitech G Cloud.
The Logitech G Cloud. Yes, I'm glad you remembered that. They already kind of like officially partnered with them on that, saying like, oh, this is the great way to play your Xbox cloud games. Well, do they have to even build their own handheld? If they came up with this Xbox operating system that kind of works as a front end on Windows to kind of make it more console-like experience, do they even need to make their own to say, hey, every Windows-based PC is now an Xbox? And we know as early as today, Xbox released their new advertisements that they're going to be doing for this holiday season. And it's all about showing different devices. And the tagline is, this is an Xbox. So, your phone, your TV, existing handhelds, they're all Xboxes. That's what they're going for. So we know that this is what they are going in that direction.
Yeah.
I almost see this being more of a possibility than us seeing dedicated Xbox handheld hardware.
I think that's really interesting, but I think if they don't make the hardware, I think it's going to have to do one of two things. They're either going to have like a very unique agreement with like one manufacturer, or they're going to have to make it, because all those other PC manufacturers that make these other handhelds already make a front end. They already have like, well, that's not true. They don't. Yeah, I think it is kind of true. I don't think they're as robust as SteamOS, but they do kind of push their own way of like grouping your games together, and this is how you access them and things like that. So, Xbox would have to somehow get them to move away from that and use theirs, I guess, or at least pay them enough money so that they would let you use the other one, or
right. Like say they partnered with like Lenovo or something, or they were to say, okay, now you're making our handhelds. It could be both though, right? It could be that they make their own handheld and then they also license out that operating system, the Xbox operating system, go on any handheld that wants it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way we have envisioned it, that OS on an Asus ROG Ally X would be like the sickest handheld on the market right now. It would be a no-brainer at that point. It already kind of is.
And that would, and think about the competition that would introduce, because, like now if any electronics manufacturer can come out and make their own Xbox handheld, some will be cheap, some will be expensive, but they can all run this operating. It's kind of like what they're doing with the Meta VR operating system, which now can be used on other VR headsets besides the ones that Meta make. Mm-hmm. It seems like a move that has been established in the industry, and Xbox may go into that.
Okay. Can you use it on a PSVR 2?
No, you cannot use it on the PSVR 2, but you can use it on other, headsets are allowed. They're now, I don't know that anyone's actually done it. They just announced that other ones had access to I think it's called the Quest OS.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know as much about VR headsets as I do handhelds. So there may be some other VR headsets out there that are really nice that you might want to use, Quest OS on. But my first impression was this would make the other great VR headset, the PSVR 2, way better. But that's the one you can't use it on. And I'm afraid that's how it would feel for the handhelds, because I'd be like, I want to use this on an Ally X, and that'd be like the one that it wouldn't work. Like, that would be so bad.
I feel like though, if it was just a part of Windows, like it's just something you could, basically a program you could run that would operate as a front end, like essentially in my mind, any Windows based PC would just be able to run this just because it's a Windows based PC.
Right. Well, maybe so then. Kind of like Steam Big Picture mode, running that
Exactly.
Okay. Well, maybe. Maybe there's a way.
Maybe there's a way. Yeah. Let's move on to our last comment here. We got one from Mochi4213 who says, I think Xbox should stop making consoles and focus on games. They seem a lot better at that.
Yeah, and I thought this was an interesting comment, and I just wanted some clarification as to what games Mochi was talking about.
Maybe it's saying like better at publishing games.
Maybe. Yes, maybe so.
Because arguably Xbox is the largest game publisher in the world right now. Like, who really tops Microsoft in terms of IPs that they own? Yeah,
nobody. They've got Activision Blizzard now. They own Candy Crush, bro.
So they are a huge publisher now. And maybe that's, now that they've inherited this huge, well, not inherited, now that they've gone out and just brute force purchased one of the largest,
they didn't inherit
IP
nothing.
holders, period. No, not at all.
They threw money at the problem.
Hey, but they've got all this IP now, and it's multi-platform. It's already been established multi-platform.
Yeah.
They might as well lean into it.
It'd be nice if they did that, wouldn't it?
And it seems like it's just the next logical move. It just doesn't make any sense to me if they're developing. And Phil Spencer said when he was talking about this, he said they're looking at the current market and they're reacting and they're trying to build based off what is working right now. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, they can't be looking at the current market and say, like, looking at all the handheld devices that are out there and say, you know what? I think the one that we should try to emulate is the Nintendo Switch. I feel like they've got to be looking at the handheld PCs and saying that's what we need to emulate.
Definitely. If they take the Switch route, they're screwed.
I think so.
Because we always talk
compete
about
with Nintendo.
No, and we always talk about how the best thing Switch has is an amazing library, and they just don't have that, Despite the fact that, like we said, what they own Candy Crush. So this could be easily fixed. Just port Candy Crush. But
no, you're right though. But the thing is like the thing about Nintendo and the Switch is that they are dedicated to keeping their games only on their consoles, and like everything else is not.
Right. Catherine's brewing tea again.
You hear her in there brewing tea. She's in there brewing tea. She's whistling. Our podcast needs a little bit of sound of a whistle going on in the background. Definitely.
Can we get like a little train whistle effect in post?
Maybe. I'm gonna say no, but if it's there and we're all surprised, there we go.
I'll talk to the editor. All right. You got anything else about the Xbox handheld, Gampaw?
I don't really have much besides to say that I hope that they do it, and I hope they do it right, because I think that Xbox is uniquely poised to be able to create one of the best gaming handheld PCs out there, if not the best. And they might be able to do it at the best price with the best specs, and it be the most convenient for people in their digital libraries. I think it could be amazing, but if they do it the other ways, like have a closed ecosystem or heaven forbid do a cloud gaming system, I think those would both fail.
Well, Gampaw, you had me at uniquely poised.
That's right.
All right, so we're moving on here to a different discussion. And I love this picture, by the way. We want to know, when we're buying our games, when y'all are buying your games, does it matter to you how long the game is? Do you look into it? Is it something you're curious about? And does it affect whether or not you open the old pocketbook?
Yeah, I think, I don't remember who, there was an interview earlier. I'm going to see if I can get it real quick to see if I can find it the way I can quote it properly. But there was an interview earlier. I can't find it, but it was with somebody saying that basically they're no longer, I think it was something to do with Yakuza. Maybe one of the creators of Yakuza was saying that the length of games is starting to be a non-factor. Like, people don't care anymore. Like, the age of having to make your game a certain length so that people are interested in buying it, he said that that isn't a thing anymore. People don't do that anymore.
Yeah, well, I'm inclined to agree with him that it's definitely less important than it once was, because it used to be so important that's why we got that murderous freaking Lion King level with the damn flamingos and the hippopotamuses that nobody can beat. Nobody. I'm
No,
convinced nobody in the world can beat it. And you can't change my mind. But the reason that those old games were so hard is so you couldn't like rent it and beat it in a rental cycle, right? They wanted you to buy the game. So I kind of agree. It doesn't seem to be that important these days.
well, even beyond that, like, yeah, obviously the rental thing was huge, but I think even more recently, we've seen games come out and like that be a thing that they touted was like how many hours are in a game. That's how we got not only, the old Lion King game, but that's also how in just a few years ago we got a game like Assassin's Creed Valhalla
Yeah.
that came out and it was like over, it was like over 100 hours just to do the main campaign and the credits never even did roll because they just want to keep you playing the game forever. They just want
There
you
was
to do all
no
the side
credits
quests.
in that game?
No credits. They never rolled. You could not roll credits
Oh
in
my
that
God.
game. I know, right? There was no end. There was no end to the game. You could watch the credits in the menu. That was, but otherwise you never reached an end point of the game ever.
I did not know that. I knew that game was bloated as hell, but I didn't know they were just. I almost said a bad word. I didn't know they were jerks about it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that they have since decided that that was maybe not the best idea. But I mean, that's how we got games like that because everyone was like, hey, if the game's like length was a point of pride, like that was, oh, I bought this game for $60, but hey, it's got like 150 hours of content if you do everything. Like that's
Right. Well, I mean, my answer to this is way different as a 33-year-old, full-time worker than it was as a high school kid. So when I was a high school kid, like I wanted my games as long as possible. I'm not going to lie. That's one of the reasons that I fell in love with Bethesda is because I could just almost play them endlessly. But these days I don't have that kind of time and I'm like the complete opposite end of the spectrum now.
yeah. Yeah, me too. It's like kind of like the shorter the better. I just want like a really good, short, high quality experience. Let's see what Benjamin has to say here. It definitely affects how much money I'm willing to spend on games. I wouldn't spend $60, $70 on a game that only runs 10 hours. It doesn't seem worth spending that for only 2 to 3 sittings. On the flip side, I prefer games around the 10 to 30 hour range. I just wait for sales to pay much less for them.
Yeah. Well, I do disagree that I wouldn't pay full price for a 10-hour game. I definitely would. And I've probably
Totally.
come pretty close to that before.
Oh, I
With
definitely have.
with something like Dread, like I think about Metroid Dread and
I think about Astrobot, the new
I was about to
Astrobot
say,
game.
yeah, Astrobot. Yeah. So, that doesn't bother me. The 2 to 3 sittings thing like really doesn't bother me at all, and sometimes I can even stretch those out pretty damn far if I'm being honest. But 10 to 30 is also a nice little range as well.
I'm not even sure. Like we put out this poll asking, do you consider a game's length before buying? And we'll go through the results here, but like personally, I never really look into a game's length before I buy it. I don't know what that is. I would put me in the rarely category. Where would you fall in this?
I would probably fall in the sometimes. If it's a brand new game and I think I want to play it, it's not like I get on the internet and immediately see if anybody's got it on how long to beat, or something. But if it's been out a while, I might check.
Yeah. Well, as you see here, 58% of people are in that sometimes category. And then everything else is pretty equal in that 13 to 16% range between never, rarely, and always. Seems like it's just a toss up. Like sometimes, I look and sometimes I don't. I found that to be interesting.
Yeah, I think when I voted on this poll on our Discord server, I think I might have actually said always. But I think what I was thinking is like, I do think about a game's length just about always, but it maybe not before I buy it. Like, I don't know. So I'm a sometimes, but I think a lot of people are that way probably.
Yeah. Well, let's move into our comments here. We got the first one from Gabriel Gomez. Hit us with that one, Daniel.
All right. Old Gabby said, not just length, but what genre, price, and what I'm able to play at the time. For me, I want to buy Baldur's Gate 3, but haven't yet because I know how much time I have to invest in it. I'm willing to buy full price for it, and I like RPGs. I didn't get it because I still have other games I need to finish. Taking my time too because I want to enjoy them rather than rushing. Length doesn't necessarily matter. If the game is good all the way through, I just hope it's good.
Well, I'll tell you, Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be good. Daniel, you almost didn't make it through that.
What do you mean?
I don't know. It just seemed like something caught you off guard there, and you started to chuckle a little bit. But,
no, I didn't start to chuck. I just agree with a lot of points here. And
especially that last point.
I just feel heard. That's all. I just agree with just about everything Gabby said.
Look, I think that this is really interesting because this point is saying like, hey, I want to play Baldur's Gate 3, but I haven't because I know how much time it takes. Like, that's cool. And the fact was like, I'm willing to pay whatever for it, but I got to be ready to play it.
Yep.
Very few people have that level of patience and like saying like, hey, I want to play this, but I just can't until I have the time, and to not buy it and put it in your backlog. I feel like that's what the rest of us do.
Hell yeah. That's what I do. I wishlist it on Steam, and when I see a good price, that's exactly what happens.
No, I'm saying like a lot of us will just buy it, have it in our library ready to go, and it's just a game that we bought and haven't played yet.
Yeah, well, that's what a backlog is, ain't it?
Oh, I know, but you're saying if you wish list it, oh, I see. You buy it whenever it goes on sale.
I mean, that's what I try to do. I mean, I'm not going to say I've never just impulse bought it because I certainly have. But I do use I use the Steam wish list a hell of a lot,
Yeah, it's a pretty good system too.
Yeah. Really it's fantastic. I love it. Shout out to the Steam wish list. If you don't use it, you should. It'll send you an email when your games go on sale. It's freaking sick.
It needs some medicine for that. Let's see here. Benjamin says, that's wild. I would never buy a game full price to sit in my library. Save yourself some money and wait for a sale if you're not playing it right away.
Yep. That's my advice too, Benji.
Or just always wait until you're ready to play it. I guess, like, theoretically, you could get a better sale earlier, if it went on sale before, but the time you're ready to play it, it's not on sale anymore. That's happened to me.
It happens, yeah. I mean, you never really know, which is why I try to take advantage of these Steam sales. But hindsight's 2020. You don't know either way. You could find a better sale later,
Yeah. The price charting websites are really useful.
The bottom line is we could probably all save ourselves a lot of money if we just didn't feed the backlog. But
I know.
I do currently feed the backlog, and I can stop anytime. It's not a big deal.
I promise.
I don't think I'm the only one that can make addict jokes about that.
No, for sure.
All right.
Let's move on. We got randomized YouTuber here who says, well, I'm not spending $70 for a 5-hour game, though I normally research a game more than just playtime before I buy it. Steam sales are great, though. Sometimes I felt bad getting a long game for a cheap price, especially if it's a good one. If the game is long, I'm not really too picky about that. I play Persona and all those long RPGs, so short length is my biggest fear for playtime.
Well, I mean, there's something to be said for making sure you want to get your money's worth, out of your purchases. I totally understand that. And what that is to me maybe isn't what it is to old randomized YouTuber, because I don't know that I'll ever finish Persona. Because it's so long. I think it's great. It's just so long. And I kind of wish it was shorter so I feel like I had a chance of finishing it, honestly. So, different strokes, different folks.
Yeah, I chronically feel like I have to finish games.
Yeah.
I've gotten better over the past year or so of if I'm just not enjoying a game, I will not finish it. Mm-hmm. I'll abandon a game. But if I'm enjoying a game, even if it's longer than I wanted it to be, I will try to see it out just because I enjoy the game and I want to see it through.
Yeah.
So it's long games I tend to avoid. If I see a game and it's I want to play it, but I know it's a long game. I'm sort of interested in that Metaphor game, and I don't know how long it is. I need to look into it, but I have it in my head that it's because it's from Atlas and it's from Persona, or the Persona developer. I think like it's going to be a 100-hour RPG, and it may not be. That's what I need to look.
Yeah, I really have no idea. I have the same stereotype, for that game. I also kind of figured it was just a long ass RPG.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I'm a weird. I'm different from you. Like, I want to finish more games desperately, and I just chronically don't.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's weird because I will take like a game that has like endless playability, something like Sea of Thieves, or we've done it with Fortnite or Balatro, things like that, and I'll just pour time into them, way more time than it would take me to finish a couple of one-player games. But
Yeah,
it's just like, it's such a different like thing. I don't know. I've realized that about myself, that I just love games that have like endless, just fun loops.
Yeah, those games tend to see. I find those to be more repetitive, and like I get tired of those faster. But I think that for certain, like that's why the different strokes thing. Like some gamers love those type of games because the fact that they are repetitive and you do means you can get really good at them. And being like really good at the game feels rewarding in a different way than playing
Yeah.
through a single player game does.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think there are times when you avoid games like that, not because you don't think you would like them, but because you know that you would put more hours into it and you wouldn't be able to play something else.
Totally. 100%. Like I am both loving and hating Pokemon trading card game Pocket right now because it's that. There's no end in sight. And I
No.
just want to play it all the time. But like I can't like I'm like, what am I working towards? There's no goal. So it's like, although I really want to play it, it's like I could use that time towards another game that I could play and finish, and like I could put it as my kind of like a collection on the wall. It's like I pin it up. I'm like I finished that game. Whereas a game like Pokemon card game Pocket, Train Card Game Pocket, I can't finish that game.
Yeah.
It's like it.
And I love that. I don't know. There's something about like just it's like TCG Pocket, and I honestly I haven't played it as much in the past day and a half, 2 days, because of another game that I'll talk about later. But I am also just loving the shit out of TCG Pocket. I really just can't emphasize that enough. But it's basically like it's just become a part of my day. It's like a few, you open your packs, and then maybe you do some battles. And I have put a lot of hours on it already. But I love that. I don't know, man. It's just like it's just a different thing. I don't know. Different strokes, like you said. But it'll take your time. That's for sure. We got some live comments here. So we got one from Laninator. Welcome in, by the way. Who said, I don't think I ever have a fixed answer to this question. It all depends on my mood. I go through phases of burnout on different genres, so it just depends on what I'm into at the time. On a money perspective, I don't love spending $70 on a very short game. But if I've just played a 100+ hour RPG, I need a break before the next one. So it's a time thing, not a money thing.
Yeah, I do. I find that when I come off a long game, I want to play a short game immediately after. Like it's the next thing I want to do. Like
Yeah.
I have to play a short game. It's like I need a palate cleanser after playing a really long game.
Yep. I would agree with that. And I think that makes sense. It's just variety.
And then you play a couple short games, and then you want to play a long meaty game.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you really do.
Absolutely.
But one more thing, about this comment here that we didn't touch on is saying sometimes I feel bad for getting a long game for a cheap price. And I think that struck me as really interesting.
Yeah, I just say if it's on sale, I don't worry about that. I've never felt that emotion, but I do think that's very sweet.
Yeah.
I mean,
sweet, but I mean, I don't mind. Like, say if I get like The Witcher 3, and you could get so much time out of that game, but if you get it for $5, I mean, like, hey, that's amazing.
And I did.
For $5.
I did get that game for like nothing. Like it might have been less than $5. It was crazy.
Yeah.
That's a great example because that's a masterpiece, and it's always cheap.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
We got one more comment about this.
Okay. This comes to us from Dandy Bean, who said, I tend to, when it comes to RPGs, I don't think I really look into any other genre when it comes to game length. And I was going to say though, but there is no though.
Well, there's no though.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it needs to. I mean, the though
It
is
doesn't.
implied.
It doesn't have to be there. I just thought it was
It
coming.
doesn't have. You're like, I really expected a though.
Yeah.
This really spoke to me because I am the exact same way. I think the only times that I definitely look into a game's link before I buy it is when it's an RPG.
Yeah, I kind of identify with this too. RPGs are just the ones that are known for being so long I can't beat them. So, but they're also the reason I used to love long games. So like, it just is what it is.
Yeah, like you're never gonna get like a platformer, and it's, say like Astrobot. Like I knew the length of Astrobot before I played it. I didn't have to look it up. I just knew about how long it was gonna be because that's just about how long those games are.
Right.
But RPGs can vary some, and typically RPGs are on the longer side, but they can be anywhere from like, I think I played Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, which is like an action RPG, and really I think it only took me maybe like 9 or 10 hours. So that's like that was an extremely short RPG.
Right.
But they can go all the way to over 100 hours easy.
Well, it takes a long time to get from humble beginnings to killing a god with the power of friendship. It can take a minute. So I get it.
Yeah, totally. But I mean, like this idea that games length is stopping from being such a big deal. Do you agree with that? Do you think that like now that age of like a game having to be so long so that people felt like they got their money's worth out of it, do you think that's changing, or do you think that that's still something that people care about, like really care about before they buy a game?
I think it's changing, but I think there's like a minimum. I think if it's like less than 10 hours, it is like an absolute no for a ton of people. But I think once you cross like 10 or 12 hours, people kind of like, I don't think it's as big a deal.
I think
there's a cutoff.
Yeah. I think that's why Astrobot, like so few people, I saw sales numbers for Astrobot and it was like 1 point something million. And I'm like, that is a criminally low number for that game. Like, sure, 1 point something million is not bad, but that game needs to be a 10 million plus seller because it's that good. And it's just because it's it's not even full price. I think it's like 60, maybe $50. I think it's 60 though.
Yeah.
$60, and it's like a sub 10-hour game. And people just don't want to spend that much money for a sub 10-hour game.
No, they don't. It don't bother me, but I think I'm in the minority.
Yeah.
I just want it to be good. Honestly.
Me
and
too.
Pacing is important. Like if it's paced well, it can make a really long game feel short. You probably don't want to make your short game feel long. That'd be bad.
It can make a really short game feel long. Yes, I saw you were going to that. You were like, a game that's paced well is going to feel... Well, I think what you're saying is like a game that's paced well is going to feel right.
It's going to feel right.
No matter what.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's going to feel right. That's exactly what I was going for.
Like, like a game like The Last of Us is not a very long game. I think it's over 10 hours, but it's probably not a heck of a lot over 10 hours. And
we don't deserve any more Last of Us than we got.
You know what I mean?
They were already so good to us with what they gave us.
Yeah. Yeah. This is interesting from Landnader here. If I really want to play a great time, doesn't matter, I'm buying it.
If I really want to play a game, time doesn't matter, I'm buying it. If I want to play it but can wait, then I'll think about it.
I read that is great, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense, Landnader.
If I really want to play a great time.
I was like, no, that was not a matter of not having the comma there. That was a problem with me just not being able to read words. And I changed that one G word for a different G word.
He's always done that.
Always.
He's always done that.
That's why we're called G and G.
I wasn't ready to reveal that part of the lore, but Lore Master Darling, please add it to the oral scrolls. All right, Randy, you got anything else about game length?
No, I'm ready to move into our final segment.
Well, what's the final segment, Gamepaw?
The final segment is now, what are we playing? What games have we been playing this week? We already know, because we've already sort of revealed that both of us have been playing Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket.
Yes, we've been playing a lot of. I mean, I've been playing a lot of TCG Pocket.
I've been
I
playing
have
a
done
lot too.
not as much as I was in the past couple days. I do. That is true. I know I sound like an addict right now, but that's a true statement. I can, and I can keep it low any of these days. I'm not itching at all to get back into it, and I just love it so much.
No, yeah, I've been. It's not been my like main game I've been playing, but I've been playing more than I care to admit.
Yeah, it's just so fun. I love opening the packs, and I love the battles.
Yeah,
And
super fun.
I'm not embarrassed to say it. And it
I
just
even like
seems
building the decks.
it's fun. And it's only going to get better when they add more cards. When I play TCG Pocket, first I know I love it, but I also see an extremely like basic version of what it will eventually be, because I've been through
Yeah,
this with Marvel Snap. I played Marvel Snap when it was brand new and it was fantastic, but Marvel Snap has grown ridiculously since I got out of playing it. So much that it's intimidating as hell for me to even think about opening it these days.
yeah.
And TCG Pocket will do the same thing. They're gonna keep adding cards for years to this damn thing, and
I
it's
know.
gonna.
I'm kind of worried about it though, in a way, because
You're
of that
worried about it.
intimidation thing. I'm worried that it's going to get so big that new players are going to be turned off by how big it is.
Well, it depends on how they handle that. It's going to be really important. The new player experience is something that games like this, I think it's always a hurdle. For them. The other game that I've been playing does this really well, actually. And I don't, I'm not ready to move off Pokemon quite yet, so I'll save it. But
Yeah.
that's something they're going to have to do, is provide ways for these new players to catch up a little bit.
Yeah. I do think that there is a balance they're going to have to find, because I do feel like right now, like the game is manageable for new players to come in and grasp what's
Easy.
going on. Like, the meta is pretty easy to grab. That being said, kind of like what Landon was saying here, the meta is pretty thin.
Yeah.
And I think that it needs to be a little bit more in depth. There needs to be more paths to victory. It seems like there's kind of like 4 main deck types that you're seeing right now that pretty much everyone's playing with. And that's it. There's not a whole lot of variety because people have figured out the meta and that's like all you see.
Yeah. Right now, it's Pikachu and Mewtwo, and a little bit of Articuno and Starmie. That's the meta. If you want to win, that's what you run, and everybody does it. But once it gets more varied, it's going to be so good. Like that's going to be so fun. Because right now it's like you can freaking guess what deck somebody's going to play. It's like you see
Just
the
about,
electricity energy, and you're like, okay, I'm getting peaked.
Yeah.
But it won't be like that forever, and I'm excited about
No.
that. If I stay with it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think they need to make it a little bit more, like a little bit more variety for people, so they have more options, more viable options. Like legit options. But I'm afraid to the point that they're going to keep adding to it, and then it's going to get to the point of where it's like either going back to it after taking a break from it, or new players. It's just going to feel so overwhelming that it's like I don't even know where to start anymore because it's just so many cards. I feel so behind. Like to collect, these new metas are going to become increasingly more difficult to get into because they require cards that are going to be. There's so many cards, it's harder to get those individual cards.
Well, I've thought about that a lot, and I don't think it's as bad as you think, because TCG Pocket, I really do think it's like a collecting app first, and then it's a battling. I think that's the way they view it. I think they view it as a collecting app, and then on the side you battle, right? Something like Marvel Snap, I think, is the opposite. I think it's really focused on the gameplay, and it's really good, so they ought to be. And I think it's a little secondary on the collecting. So Marvel Snap, that's exactly why I can't get back into it. Like, I can't get past the middle thing, is because I know that you earn cards by, like, advancing your deck collection, and that takes a long time, and it involves battling, and, Dan knows way more about this. I've forgotten things. But it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of investment. The Pokemon TCG thing, what's going to happen is they're going to release new sets, which are going to come in different booster packs. And if you want, no matter when you get back into the game, you're going to be able to open the sets that have the cards that people are playing right now, And unless they take sets away, and I don't see why they would do that. They might though. And I think the randomness of the collecting versus like an earned system might make it so that maybe it's not as intimidating.
It might. I don't know. It's interesting ideas. We'll just have to see how they tackle it. I know that I saw that they are planning on adding some new events before the end of the year. I don't know that they're planning on adding new cards until the beginning of next year. Like I think it's going to be another month or two before we start seeing new cards added.
Is it next year or is it December? I can't remember. I posted the news thing in the channel.
I thought it was that the new events, they were adding new events in December and that new cards were coming in like January or February. Maybe I got that backwards.
You may be right. Maybe the new set is coming after the new year, and maybe there's like a subset of the A1 set that's coming out in December. I think
that may be true.
I think we are getting some new cards, but you may be right.
Yeah,
you may be right. I can't remember, but we're not getting trading apparently till 2025. So
yeah, trading I think will help a lot, but I think they must be having trouble with trading, like working it out. And I also saw that only select cards will be even able to be traded, and I'm assuming that's going to be high tier cards are the only ones that are going to be able to be traded.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I just hope it's good because I'm really looking forward to trading.
Wouldn't it be cool to be able to trade like a handful of like lower tier cards for a high, like they should make it so that you have more freedom in trading. I hope that they do.
Yeah, I hope they do too.
And it's not just like a 1-to-1 thing.
Yeah, we got a couple comments here from our buddy Dan who said, I've thought about this a lot and I think the card acquisition system in Snap, while frustrating, is better than it is in Pocket. I'm curious, is that because it has less randomness? I wonder. That's my theory as to why you would feel that way. Because I was kind of arguing that the randomness is a little bit of an equalizer for like the returning player. But for somebody who stays with it, maybe that is more frustrating. I don't know.
Ooh, Laminator may be onto it. The restrictions are so they can still make money off people buying packs. That may be what it's all down to is they're not having trouble working it out. They're like, how can we do this trading and still make money? So they're restricting it so you can only trade like if they make it so that you can only trade a high tier card for a high tier card, well, that's saying, you're basically getting nothing of too much value out of that. And so people still buy packs.
Could be. I mean, they're making millions of dollars. They definitely don't want to do anything to change that. No. But I hope it's a little more nuanced than that, personally. Benji wants to know what the rarest card we picked up so far is. You go first, Randy.
I don't know what the rarest card I've picked up. I really want to get those like gold. I think there's only the 3. There's the Pikachu, Charizard, and Mewtwo EXs. Those are like the rarest cards in the game, and I don't have one of those.
Yeah, Benji does. Benji has one of those. I saw it in the picture he posted on the Discord. Laminator said he got the Pika EX with the in-game cutscene. That's my rarest card too. Is the I think they call them immersive. So I have the immersive Pika EX. That's my rarest card.
Yeah, I don't have one of those.
What's your rarest card?
I guess I just have some regular like EXs. So I have a Pikachu EX. I've got a Machamp EX. I got a Lapras.
Do you know how to sort your collection by rarity?
I know you can sort it by different ways.
Yeah.
I haven't sorted it by rarity though.
Yeah. Some of the alternate art cards are really rare too, I think, just in general. I don't think it necessarily has to be an EX.
Yeah, I think you can go through and look at the rarity, the percentage breakdowns of how rare they are. It's pretty interesting because some of those are extremely rare.
Yeah, it's cool, and they're cool to see when they come up in a fight too.
Yeah. Well, what else you been playing besides TCG Pocket, Daniel?
I've been playing Hearthstone, and
oh man, how is it?
It's a little intimidating. But it's just because I haven't even played WoW. Like this is just totally new to me. And it is deeper than TCG Pocket, but it wouldn't take much to be deeper than TCG Pocket right now. But I think it's really good. I think it's really good, and I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm doing the like tutorial path, basically. I think there's like 25 levels you progress through, and then it puts you in normal ranked. And I'm like 15 in that tutorial path. Are you
playing it on mobile?
I am playing it mostly on mobile. I did download it on BNet on my PC today so that I could play it when we're doing chatting
You
streams
have
and
to
stuff.
you have to download it through BattleNet.
Yeah, it's Blizzard.
Uh, okay.
What,
Just is hey.
you got
I
beef
don't.
with
I
Battle.net? Battle.net?
no. I just it's so. I mean, I get it. I just hate that we have all these individual launchers. It's just super annoying.
It is.
It just is what it is. I'm gonna download it and try it because I want to try it out. Hearthstone's always been a game that I've been interested in, but never, just for one reason or another, never really gave too much thought into actually trying.
Yeah, well, I haven't built a deck yet. I've just been playing with like the archetype decks that you earn because I don't really understand it well enough to do that yet. But I do think it's pretty friendly to the new players. It seems like I'm getting a lot as I progress through these 25 levels. So, I would encourage you to try it. And
Yeah,
it's
I'll
free.
try it. I mean, heck, if it's free, I wonder how free, like friendly it is. Like I feel like Pokemon TCG Pocket is pretty free friendly.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay to still have competitive decks.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously you can pay and get there like that, but you don't have to.
Right. Hearthstone, I really don't know yet. I think it's friendly enough. And I think, people always say that you can build a competitive meta deck, like they call them budget decks in Hearthstone, because you do have a currency called like something dust, kind of like Shine Dust, I guess. And you earn it along the way. And there's like people who make decks that, use as little of that as possible to craft. And then you're competitive like through whatever rank, So I think it can be done. But I'm really just not deep enough into it yet to tell you.
Yeah. Landon says in Hearthstone, if you want to get the upper ladder ranks, you do need to probably buy packs, but you can get pretty well free to play.
Nice.
Interesting.
What's Dan saying here? In Pocket, you have to rely on the randomness of opening packs in order to get the cards that are playable. Not all the cards are playable. There are some cards that are useless, which is true. And you have the highest chance to open those in the packs. There are ways to target cards, but it's not as reliable or it's expensive in terms of pack points to get and takes time since you need 2 cards to put in your deck. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all that's true. I just haven't got tired of it yet. I guess that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, I haven't either. I think it's either that's the way I see myself ending, getting burnout and just being like, I have no more interest in playing, or once they start adding more cards, the meta just gets shook up to the point to where I can't feel like I can easily wrap my head around it, and I give up just by it being too complicated.
Yeah. Oh, Dan said his Snap. Okay, yeah, I did miss this. Sorry, Dan. In Snap, all the cards are viable. Some are definitely more powerful than others, and some only work well in combination with other cards, but all the cards you get can generally be used in some archetype, and you can target cards in some form or fashion. It's not completely up to chance. You can go for cards that will help complete the deck you want to play. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't your collection level have to be at a certain level before you can get certain cards, just period? Isn't that the way it is in Snap? Or has that lightened up? Because if you tell me that's lightened up, you might be about to get me into a third damn card game right now. Again.
Right. Snap seems super fun, though. I remember watching Dan play that time, and I was really interested in it. It seems super fun.
Yeah, it is. Laninator Hitting was more Hearthstone. Said, Hearthstone has a good card crafting system, but having enough cards to deconstruct is what it takes to get the cards you need for your deck. And see, I haven't done any of that. I haven't deconstructed a single card because I'm afraid to.
I don't want to do it. I'm scared. Well, speaking of scared, I've been playing this week. I finished playing A Quiet Place: The Road Ahead. So that was the main game I played this week, and I just finished it last night.
Nice.
And yeah, so it was an interesting game. Obviously, I love A Quiet Place, the movie, and I like the sequel pretty good. And I thought the concept of a video game based on A Quiet Place is I think that in general, the concept is phenomenal to make a horror game out of it. That being said, in practice, it's all about you can't make noise. That's the whole, that's the main gimmick of the game. You're going through, you can't make noise.
I wouldn't have expected
if you make noise, sure you wouldn't have. They comes and get you. But what that means is like it's super slow and deliberate. And if you're a
Yeah.
person like me who really likes to tear through games, this game forces you to slow down, take little tiny steps at a time, and I think that
You'll never beat it.
Oh, I already beat it. So
Oh shit.
yeah, I already beat it. It was only like maybe an 8-hour game, so
Okay.
it wasn't a super long game. I think if it had been much longer than that, it just like there's no way. By the end of it, it was already feeling pretty repetitive. They didn't have a whole lot of. Well, there were puzzles and stuff, but there wasn't enough of the gameplay to shake up things to make it feel like it needed to be warranted being any longer than that. I think it is a game that sounds better in concept than it actually made for a real like horror game. Sure, it was scary, like you definitely didn't want to mess up because you'd be attacked. But I died once you die, 20 times, it's no longer that scary. It's more just like a focus, get through the levels without getting without messing up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It does, I mean, I love the movie, so if the game's good, I'm sure it was a good time.
It was just okay, to be honest. It was just okay. It wasn't terrible,
Yeah.
but it wasn't that great.
Well, that's good.
But Catherine and I have also been playing Epic Mickey Rebrush still. We're not done with that. That game's got a lot of content. I mean, it's a lot. It's enough to keep us busy, but we don't play that much of it every night. There's a lot of side quest stuff that we haven't gotten fully into, but I think we're getting on the tail end of that. And then today, because the Grand Theft Auto, the Definitive Edition, did you hear about the patch it got?
No.
So it got a new patch that kind of basically reworked, like I think it was Grove Street Games were the one who originally did this Definitive Edition of the Grand Theft Auto trilogy. And, it got a lot of crap. People said it looked terrible. It ran poorly, had so many bugs.
Yeah.
And then a different company did the mobile version of the trilogy. And that version was much better. So now they've basically gone through and made the console versions based on the mobile versions, and they're much better. The lighting is better. Everything is better back. And they straight up removed Grove Street Games. They're not even credited on it anymore.
Wow.
So I heard that Grove Street Games even unfollowed Rockstar on Twitter.
That's a little petty. That's crazy though. They
it's
whitewashed
crazy.
them from their own project.
They really did. But
That was such a bad look for them though. Like I always think about that as such a letdown because those games are so good. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, so now they're like finally up to snuff. So I was like, I still hadn't played. I bought the trilogy back when it first came out, but I've been playing through. I kind of waited a while until I thought they got better, and I played GTA 3 and then Vice City. But with this new patch that came out yesterday, I thought, well, heck, I'm gonna go ahead and play San Andreas. So I started up San Andreas this morning. So it was fun to play this morning.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. But that's all I've been playing.
Well, Randy, is it about that time?
Yeah, I think it is.
Well, before we go, we want to remind you some things. We have to do it. Thank you for sticking around. I just want to let you know, if you're not already a member, we have a killer Discord server. Okay, you can find a link in the description of this podcast. It's a really inviting place. A lot of cool people. We talk games. We're talking a lot of Pokémon TCG Pocket. So just join up because so are you. Okay, and also we stream on Twitch. Those of you that are hanging out in the live chat, we appreciate you so much. Those of you who are watching in YouTube land, consider maybe throwing us a follow, okay? It's twitch.tv/gameandgig, and you can also check all the great short-form content that Randy makes over at YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all the places for news, reviews, and discussions. He does a great job.
Yeah, and also, guys, if you're interested in more of the Gaming Gig podcast, we do a bonus video for YouTube members every week. So if you'd like to get access to that bonus video and support the podcast, check out the join button. It's usually next to the subscribe button over on the YouTube version of this podcast. And yeah, so we'll be doing this week. We're going to be talking all about the Steam Deck OLED because it got a new model this week. We're going to talk about the white one. We're going to also talk a little bit about when we might expect the Steam Deck 2. So looking forward to that.
Me too. You know, I do occasionally like to nerd out about the Steam Deck. So I'm excited about the bonus episode. So join up.
Yeah, guys. All right. Well, until next time, I'm Randy.
And I'm Daniel.
And this has been Gaming Gig.
Peace out.